So we all have a story from when we were a kid where you look back on it and it was actually like really questionable and you think to yourself, wow, that was pretty questionable and I kind of think I shouldn't have been put in that situation. So anyway, the story starts with me, my sister, and my parents driving about 2 hours away from our house to my great uncle's cabin, and it was just like a family reunion. There was a bunch of small children there, gonna have some fun in the forest, eat some barbecue, whatever else you do at a family reunion. So we get there, and I play football with my cousins for like a really long time, and it's weird because I'm not good at sports, but I am for some reason good at throwing a football. So they forced me to play for like 3 hours. So I find my great uncle. I'm like, hi, great uncle, whatever his name was. I don't remember. That's kind of sad to say, but I really don't remember what his name was. And he's like, oh, hello, Foss. How you doing? Want some dinner? And I said no because I didn't eat a lot as a child. I only wanted to eat like soggy green beans and like cheese sandwiches. So my great uncle's like, okay, we're gonna go take my four-wheeler, we're gonna go into the forest. We're gonna have a great time, kids. So me, my cousin, my sister all load up onto this dingy little four-wheeler that's covered in mud. And I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. This is the peak of my 12-year-old existence. I'm getting to ride around on a four-wheeler. I've never done this before because I live in the city and like there's no forest around. Anyway, we're on the four-wheeler and we drive past this clearing and there's a dead tree in the middle, surrounded by like weird sticks, and I'm like, great uncle, what's that? And he's like, oh, so these people come by that tree. And I was like, people? What do they do with the tree? And he's like, oh, they come and they dance around the tree in these outfits and they sing. And I was like, oh, that sounds so much fun. I wonder if we'll see them. And he was like, maybe. And then he's like, they only come here like 2 weeks a year and they do all these like ceremonies. And I was like, oh, okay. That sounds so much fun. And, like, I look back on it now and I'm like, what was going on next to my great uncle's cabin? I'd go back there, but I don't know if he's still alive or not. I've learned that there's actually, like, a pretty large Church of Scientology, like, division in my city. They could have been Scientologists. I don't know what a Scientologist looks like or does besides, like, Tom Cruise. He's a Scientologist, right? I hope I'm not making a mistake there. But, or maybe they were just Christians. I don't know. Maybe they were just some sect of Christianity that I've never heard of. So anyway, we all get back to the cabin, and I'm like, Dad, great uncle, whatever his name was, told me about this cool, group of people who come and dance by this dead tree, and my dad's just like, oh, that does sound pretty cool and not at all concerning. And so my cousin who was also there with me was like, we should go check it out, because when you got to the cabin you could turn and that was where the clearing with the tree was. And I was like, all right, I'm down. I love to explore, I love to discover. I am so cool. So anyway, we show up to the dead tree. There's nothing much to see. I'm assuming we were there during the 54 weeks out of the year where the cult was not there. We were just like, it's a dead tree, I don't see what's so special about this, and we walked off. My great uncle did make a mean chicken sandwich though. Like, I didn't like meat a lot as a kid, but that chicken sandwich was something else. Oh my god. Another sort of weird thing that didn't really happen to me, just something I witnessed, was when I went to summer camp about 2 years back. It was out in the woods, like my great uncle's cabin, not near there, but like surrounded by woods. And there were like 8-year-olds there to 15-year-olds. Like that was the age range. I was one of the oldest people there. I was in one of the older cabins. Suddenly the counselor starts screaming. She's like, oh my god, come quick. So I walk over there and there's a snake swallowing a frog whole. And It's surrounded by, like, the younger cabins. Like, there's a bunch of 8-year-olds there. They're like, oh my god, look at it go! Look at it eat that frog! And I was horrified. I was like, why are you watching this? You're like 8. Go play on your leapfrog. And they're like, look, the blood spraying everywhere. And I was like, what? My last sort of brief story for today, well, I should say tonight, because I'm filming this at like 12 a.m. Has to do with the fact that, so when I was a young child, probably about 10, I had 2 of my friends over, and for some reason, like the previous 2 Christmases ago, my aunt had bought me a bow and arrow with, like, a real bow and arrow with an arrow with a blunt tip, and I was like, let's take turns shooting it in my neighbor's yard, because my neighbor was an old man who just kind of let us muck around in his yard, and his yard was connected to the next 2 houses' yards, and then there was a big white plastic fence. So my friends and I are taking turns shooting my bow and arrow like some sort of Legolas clone, and my one friend goes up, shoots it right into that white fence. So she starts crying because we're like 10 and we just defaced someone's property, and I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do? So I go inside the house and I'm like, Mom, I shot an arrow in the fence because I didn't want to snitch on my friend. And my mom's like, huh? And I'm like, yes, me, Foss and Beans, shot an arrow in our neighbor's fence. And my mom's, of course, like, you shot an arrow in our neighbor's fence a week before we're supposed to leave for a vacation. And I said, yes, I shot the arrow in our neighbor's fence, because I was still trying to cover for my friend who was, like, crying in the backyard. And my mom's like, okay, send your friends home. We're gonna go deal with this. And I was like, alright. So then my mom walks in again. She goes, I know your friend shot the arrow in the fence. Her mom just told me, and I was like, I'm sorry. I actually don't know what happened at the end of that story. Like, I don't know if we ever, like, told the neighbor. I think we did, but I don't know if anything ever came out of it, or if they just, like, sealed up the hole. Anyway, I hope they're doing alright. I hope their fence wasn't too hard to fix. Still kind of feel bad about that. It's been like 7 years. If you want to support my dreams of becoming a super cool and fun Minecraft YouTuber like the heroes of my childhood, please hit that subscribe button and like this video, and maybe even leave a comment. I like funny comments. I really appreciate any support you give me.